Our first panellist today is Ali, who's going to speak to you briefly about her family's experience of disability connected with poverty. Ali will speak for 8 minutes, and then after which each candidate will have 2 minutes to give a brief response based on their platform.
Thank you. So my name's Ali. I don't have any flyers or slogans or branding. I'm just me, and I'm a resident of the electorate of Boothby, and I've just written some notes here I'm going to look at. So I am a mother. I'm a student of law at the University of South Australia. I've been chair of the governing council at Ascot Park Primary School for the last 4 years, which is a school in this electorate. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and also a survivor of the family courts and SAPOL's approach to enforcement of intervention orders. I'm a carer for my husband, who's disabled. And I'm also very lucky to be the child of middle class parents who were able to provide me with the benefit of a really good education. My husband is a road crash survivor. He now lives with an acquired brain injury, which is a permanent disability as a result of his crash. He's a road safety advocate, and a brilliant road safety advocate in my opinion. He won the SA Community Achievement Award in 2014 for his work in road safety. He also volunteers as a peer mentor at Hampstead Rehabilitation Centre, assisting other people with newly acquired brain injuries to come to terms with the realities of their new lives. And he's also an NDIS participant. Before he had his crash, he attracted the attention of Olympic selectors for his skills in volleyball, and could have gone on to represent Australia in the Olympics had he not had a crash that kind of destroyed that path. My daughter's just started high school, and she's hiding in the audience. Try not to be noticed. So I think it's really important to me that we give a lot to our community, and like it's a deliberate choice that we do that, because that, to me, if we give to our community, then we can expect everyone to have our backs too when we need a hand up. We live on carer payment, so I receive carer payment, my husband receives disability support pension, and we're lucky enough to live in public housing. Our disposable income at the moment is less than $30 a week. Next year my daughter needs braces, which cost about $7,000, and there's no Medicare or any kind of benefit for that. So I have no idea how we're going to make that happen. And this situation is unlikely to change. There's no technology that's going to improve my husband's disability, and there's no time when he's not going to need someone to care for him. So the option for me to work full time is not really there. So despite my husband's disabilities, the fact that he can't walk more than a few metres or stand for longer than about 5 minutes, we've been assessed as being entitled to $68.18 in transport allowance by the NDIA. We were using that in combination with the state government's taxi subsidy scheme, so that gives you, for people who are not disabled, that either gives you a 50% or a 75% discount from taxi fares, which enables you to get around if you don't have your own car, or if you're unable to use public transport because of your disability, then it allows you to get around a lot cheaper. But that scheme is ceasing, I believe, in July this year. Been extended, okay. That's a good thing. But like most things to do with disability, saying there's an extension just provides more uncertainty, so we don't know when that's going to end. But you know, uncertainty is a thing that you learn to live with, as I'm sure lots of people here know. So $68.18 with no taxi subsidy scheme is about enough to get a taxi into the city and home again once a fortnight. We're self-managed NDIS participants, so that means for anyone else who is self-managed, or anyone else who's a participant or a carer for somebody who's a participant in the NDIS, that means that you feel your way around in the dark, wondering what on earth you're allowed to spend this money on, and there's little point trying to get assistance from the National Disability Insurance Agency because it's so extremely underfunded in terms of staffing, that they either don't have the training or the time to assist and sit down and have a chat with us about how we can best use those funds to improve our lives. And I'll tell you right now, and I'm trying to keep my language moderate, nothing annoys me more than seeing politicians on the TV saying, we are fully funding the NDIS and we've got the backs of people with disabilities, when it's a total lie because they've put a staff cap on the NDIA. There's just not enough people there, and the people that are there don't have the training. So I'm hoping that changes. We also have no guarantee. I talked about uncertainty before, so we have no guarantee of that the current level of funding that we receive will continue when the review comes in October. So NDIS, for those who don't know, has an annual review process. We get a certain amount of funding allocated this year. We don't know whether it'll be more, less, significantly more or significantly less next year. And I can tell you there's a huge amount of fear in the community of people living with disabilities because people find that if you don't spend the money, you won't get it next year. And I can't think of a more pointless approach to funding disability services than having people spend money just because they're scared of not having it in the future when they need it. So again, that creates underlying stress and uncertainty, and that's not going to get any better either under the current system. So regardless all of the daily challenges that we face, and I'm only talking about things that really impact federal government decisions here, there's a whole lot of other stuff that people with disabilities face on a daily basis. I consider us pretty lucky. We live in a first world country. Both my husband and I received a good education. I'm able to provide my daughter with good education. My husband can access good quality healthcare and supports for the most part. However, I feel like we're the people left behind when politicians, particularly the current government, speak aspirationally about those who have a fair go getting a fair go. How do we have more of a go? What else do we do? So how do we access the fair go that's being spoken about? And why are we characterised as a burden in the media? And why do we and other people who can't work deserve to be consigned to indefinite poverty? Most of all, why don't we ever get asked what we need? Why are we having decisions made about us without any consultation? We don't have the money to attend fancy luncheons and things like that. The lobby groups have the money to attend. So we don't get into the ear of most of the people making the decisions at the moment. So I know there are politicians here today and aspiring politicians who are across this debate and all over it. There's some politicians who are representing a man who seems to have just an extraordinarily large marketing budget that he's using to plaster his face all over billboards with kind of Trump-esque sloganing. I mean, the things that we could do with that money. I mean, every person in this room knows there's better things that could be done with that money. There are some politicians who can't even be bothered showing up to events like this. We have a photograph. And there are some politicians who make themselves available to people like us. So to those people, you're the ones that I'm considering voting for on the 18th of May. And I'm thanking you. So thank you for being here if you're a politician that's got our back. And please don't forget us if you move to Canberra. We've got your back at the moment, and I'd really like it if you had ours. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ali. Each candidate is now able to give a short response to that particular situation that Ali's raised.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Nadia Clancy, I'm the Labor candidate for Boothby. Thank you, Eli, for what you're doing in our community as well. Yeah, around the board. I am so aware of the transport issues in the NDIS. It is infuriating. It's something that is raised constantly, and we really, really need to figure out the way around it. I know that the state government have been pretty excited about pushing everything related to disability services out of their control and make themselves completely unresponsible for it, which is quite infuriating. Ali raised the cap on staffing, which I think is one of the biggest problems at the moment, is that, and has been throughout the whole NDIS process, is that people are talking to people who either don't have any experience, like you were saying, or training in the area, or they have someone who is really experienced but has been given 20 minutes on the phone for that period where they stopped doing face-to-face reviews, face-to-face assessments, 20 minutes on the phone to make decisions about somebody's future and about somebody's care needs. And it's disgusting, because these people, even if they did have the capabilities to help and make good decisions, they actually don't have the capacity to, because they are so massively overworked, and that's a product of the cap on staff. So Labor is has a policy of tripling the NDIA staff, but there's no point doing it unless those staff are properly trained. So we're going to ensure that that happens. And the great thing is that we have a shadow minister, and hopefully Minister Linda Burney, who this isn't sort of all theory for her. Her daughter, I'm not sure she wouldn't mind me sharing, also has an acquired brain injury, and so she is very conscious of the barriers that are faced in the disability sector and the challenges through the NDIA. Something, I'm not sure I'm at my 2 minutes, I'm not very good at timing myself, but something I'm also quite conscious of is the fact that people really lack advocacy. So there are some people who have someone, like, so Eli has Ali, and Ali will fight and fight and fight and fight and fight, and has the capacity to fight and fight until she eventually gets what she wants and what you need, as far as she can. But there are a lot of people in our community who can't advocate for themselves and also have no one to advocate for them, and that's one of the things I struggle with the most with the NDIS, is that desperate need for advocacy. And I'm not sure, I'm just crossing my fingers that there's going to be a great announcement from us about it. I have no idea if there will be. But I see, if I'm elected, myself as that advocate until we have something more formal, because that's what because that's what I think a local member is meant to do, actually listen to people and advocate for them. But I just wish that there was actually a system in place to ensure that independent advocacy was already in existence.
I found your talk very relatable as someone who didn't have an income for a long time because I had a disability, and I was a volunteer. I was doing a lot of good things for a lot of other people, but that of course does not get valued, and you still get the stigma of you're doing nothing and you're worthless, which is monstrously unfair. I think part of the problem with NDIS, we need funding, we need more funding, but I think part of the problem is there's an individualised, insulated, market-based approach, and instead of that we need to make it a public good, a community-based, looking after people properly, training enough staff. People shouldn't have to advocate for themselves, I really agree with that. We should have a way of filtering what is needed to those who need it, and just building that into our communities, a bit like we've done in the past with health and education. We need to return to that sense that the public owns the well-being and welfare of everybody. And it's not about, a fair go for us to be racehorses or something. That's not what we're here for. We're here to look after each other. I think if we look after each other and look after the planet, that's actually going to be better for the economy anyway. But we're human beings, we're not just economic units, and we're not just exploitable labour. And it's time to have that shift back to a sense of human worth and human rights, and getting everything you need when you have a disability, whether or not it fits someone's budget. Getting everything you need is a human right. Yes. That's my bottom line.
Thank you, guys. My name is Peter Salerno. I'm representing the seat of Boothby for the United Australia Party, and I know there's been some confusion about that, so it's the United Australia Party. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and introduce myself. I totally agree with what you said, and I have been involved in the area at the hospital up there. I've worked up there and many times with different people, and I know what victims of accidents go through. I also work a lot with people who are unemployed. I am a professional speaker and I'm a business consultant. So what I do, I work with people who are in business, who want to grow their business, and I've worked with a lot of unemployed people who want to get back into the employment. So that's my work. This is what I do every day. So I'm here and I really understand and I really appreciate being here. But just on that, I would just want to say that I'm here really just to hear and listen to what you've got to say so that I can report back to our Shadow Minister and make sure that they have this on their agenda. And if they don't have it straight away, you know, when we get into power or as we're working towards getting into power, we are going to have that fixed up. Also, I just want to recognise the fact that you know, some politicians don't come, some people don't care. Well, I've got two members sitting at the back there. Antonio Ray, he's from Adelaide, who's also come to hear what's happening, and he's concerned about your issue because your issue is not just here, it's all over. And I've also got Ron, that's up there, and Ron is from Spence. So that's right across the other side of town as far north as Gawler. So, you know, our party is listening to you, and that's what we're here for. And I know that you mentioned the fact that our leader spends all this money, but let me just ask you one question, seriously.
Is it about disability?
Yes.
Okay.
It's about disability, but it's about spending the money in the right places, right? So I will wrap it up. What I'm saying is, the money you own is your money, right? You can spend it any way you like. So let's be fair about this. He wants to make Australia great. He wants to put Australia first. So to put Australia first and help people like yourselves, right, he needs to get into power. So the only way that he can get into power, because with all due respect, the two parties that we have there have not necessarily listened. That's why you're here today, because they haven't listened. So I'm not knocking my fellow people here, I'm just saying what we've got has not worked.
I think it's do you want
Thank
to listen
you.
to her?
Sorry?
I said, do you want to listen to her?
Yes. Yeah, I have.
Hello everyone, my name's Trevor Jones. I'm running as an independent candidate in Boothby. Thank you to the organisers for inviting me along today. I'm keen to actually listen and learn. I've got lots to learn. I have no worked out policies, but it is on my heart that Australia actually cares for those in need amongst us, because we are a rich country and there's no reason we can't adequately care for people. And I really want to see that happen. I'm primarily running as an independent over an issue I've tried engaging with politicians over, and just come to be frustrated that the main parties, to me, are mainly focused on winning the next election, and the issues they pick up tend to just go through that filter. Is this going to help us with the next election? And they pick up different things, and they're better and worse in different areas. There's certainly differences between them, but my frustration was that particular issue for asylum seekers, for me, I found that what they were doing was just party politics. So that's why I'm running, to try and make a difference, and I'm concerned about things like unemployment as well, offering ways for people to actually get employed. The government always talks about the number of jobs created, but they don't have any good target on unemployment. They don't talk about dropping it to 2% or 1%. And
What about disability? You've got 2 minutes.
sorry.
You got,
You've got 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah, so disability is a big need. I've got friends that are disabled and talk to me about NDIS, and I know, like the others have said, that being able to advocate yourself is a real burden, and you get dollars put in front of you, and it's really hard to manage that. And I think, like others have said, that the government needs to actually care about the individuals and provide a means for them to be able to get what they need.
Thank you, Nadia, Stef, Peter and Trevor for responding to Ali's situation.